Hello, and welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, international leadership expert and trusted advisor. Welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm so delighted that you joined me today. I want to give a big thank you and shout out to all of you listening around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in today. I hope you're enjoying a fabulous day and that you're having a fantastic week. Because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is very, very short. It's short, sweet, and very precious. So I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in someone else's life. Now, a lot of folks want to make their life count for something, right? And they ask me, Dr. Gloria, how do you do that? Well, it's really very simple. Very simple. You make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, every single day, 365, 24/7. That's what Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count is all about. You can learn more about my work and Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. And as I've mentioned before, if you love to be inspired, you can actually subscribe to my inspirations right on my website. Just scroll down a little bit, look on the right sidebar until you see the place to add your email address to subscribe to my weekly inspirations. It's that simple. Each week, you get a lovely photograph and a short quotation that inspires you. Or by visiting Facebook. And you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/DR for Doctor, DR Gloria Burgess, PhD /. Today, I want to talk with you about leadership. As you know, if you're a regular listener, this is a topic that is very close to my heart. Today, we're going to focus on a leadership journey. Okay, one person's leadership journey and how she orchestrates that incredible, life-changing leadership journey for others. Today, I have a very special guest joining me, and her name is Danielle Harvey Stenson. Now, Danielle was my guest last week, so if you missed that episode, be sure to listen to it. Last week, we talked about work-life balance. Danielle shared a little bit about her work and her amazing journey to the work that she does now at the University of Southern California in her role as Assistant Vice President for Alumni Relations. Along the way, she shares many, many pearls of wisdom about how she thinks about and how to actually achieve work-life balance. Now, that's something we can all use a lot more of, right? So, who is Danielle Harvey Stenson? As I just mentioned, she's AVP of Alumni Relations at USC, and in addition to pursuing her career, she wears many other hats. Danielle is a mom to 6 children, right? 6. She's also passionate, and she's also a lifelong learner. She describes herself as someone who thrives on creativity. To me, she's also a very valued and trusted friend, and I'm blessed to count her as one of my amazing mentors. If I had to describe Danielle in just a word, I would say encourager. Yes, encourager. If I had 2 words, I would also say inspiring. Danielle is a leader who thinks outside of the box and is one of the most humble human beings, one of the most humble leaders that I know. She makes a difference in her own life and in the lives of so many others throughout the world in her work at USC. Now, I met Danielle almost 10 years ago. She was searching for a keynote speaker for one of the alumni conferences at USC. In fact, it was the USC Women's Alumni Conference. And at that time, I was in the process of expanding my reach because I wanted to impact more women leaders. Well, when I met Danielle, I just have to tell you, when I heard her talk about her work at USC, she was absolutely passionate. Talk about love. Her enthusiasm was just contagious. And I thought, yes, I'd love to work with this young woman who is truly on a mission and on fire about her work. Now, I'm also a USC alum, which made it a perfect match, right? Now, Danielle has worked at USC for 16, maybe 17 years in alumni relations. She has a bachelor's degree in education from USC's Rossier School of Education and an executive master's degree in leadership from the Sol Price School of Public Policy at USC. As AVP for Alumni Relations, Danielle and her team are responsible to and for about 500,000 people. That's a lot of folks. She and her team provide an incredible array of programs and services and events throughout the year after year. Now, as I just mentioned just a few moments ago, Danielle is positively committed to making an impact on the world. And she has a particular interest in making an impact to empower women leaders, to transform their world. Danielle says that, among others, her mom had an enormous impact on her life and has shaped her vision for her work. During my conversation with Danielle, you will hear more about her story. You'll also hear about some of the people and moments that have shaped and formed her as a person of influence. People and moments who have shaped and formed her as a leader, all with a particular focus on serving other leaders. In many ways, in her outlook on life and in her work, Danielle pulls together the many threads of what my own life and work are all about. You've heard me talk about these threads and themes on this show, right? These are the themes of gratitude, authenticity, vulnerability, integrity, generosity, strength, passion, presence, hope, creativity, and possibility. We are truly blessed to have Danielle as one of our honored guests on this podcast. Can I just tell you something? Danielle and I had a fabulous conversation. I'm so excited to have this amazing leader with us today. This is going to be a marvelous episode. I don't want you to miss a single word of it. So put on your walking shoes, grab your earbuds, or if you want to stay home, relax in your favorite chair, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea or a nice cool glass of water. You are going to have a great time. And you're also going to want to take notes today. So, all right, get ready. Now, before I jump into today's episode, I want to take just a moment to welcome you. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Dr. Gloria, and this is Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'd like to extend a very special welcome to those of you joining this podcast, or if you're joining Talk Network Radio for the very first time. Let me tell you something, you are in for a real treat. I'm excited to have you listening in today, and I'm deeply honored that you've allowed me to be part of your day, so you can be inspired by ideas and resources to make your life count. Today's program is all about one leader's journey and how she orchestrates journeys for other leaders. Danielle, I would love to hear about the scope of the networks that you support across USC. I know you're responsible for various programs and services and events for a huge population. And I'd also like to focus in on the Women's Conference because that's how you and I first connected. And I'd also like to give you some time to maybe share about that conference and maybe promote it a little bit as well through the program. Okay?
Awesome. Well, thank you. I can speak about the Women's Conference ad nauseum, nonstop. If this were a telethon, you wouldn't need to book any other speakers. So I'll start with the different networks that we have and then go into the Women's Conference. So just to refresh, I guess, my answer from before about some of the different programs that I'm on and our approach to alumni engagement here at USC, it's very important for the university to maintain that connection. So we have things that we call the Trojan family, and that's really the alumni, the parents, the students, the whole gamut of anyone connected to or tied to USC. And specifically, we also say around here, you may be a student for 4, 5+ years, but you're an alum and a Trojan for life. And at USC, I will say that is one of the things that convinced me to come and be a student here at USC. And I was deciding between other universities. But when I got to see that Trojan family and that Trojan connection up close and personal, I was blown away and said, yes, sign me up right now. So now, as the person responsible for maintaining that connection and hoping to cultivate that connection, we're approaching engagement in an alumni-centric approach. So that means, as I shared a little bit earlier, we're trying to find ways that alumni will feel connected to the university in a way that is personal and meaningful for them. So for some people, if they are very connected through their industry or their profession that they've chosen, we have built networks around that. And right now we have 4 of those: entertainment, real estate, education, and entrepreneurship. And the wonderful thing about the networks is it doesn't matter what your major was when you were a student. So you could have majored in law as a graduate student. You could have majored in political science as an undergraduate student. You could have majored in something like writing or directing in the School of Cinematic Arts. But now, whatever profession you're in, let's say you're in real estate. So, we hear all the time, I'm working in a field that I didn't major in, or I majored in one thing, now I'm working in another. I'm one of those people. I majored in education, but now I'm working in alumni relations, which is essentially public relations or communications, et cetera. So these networks are allowing alumni to break down those barriers or those silos that we have, because perhaps, let's say you went through the Marshall School of Business or the Annenberg School of Communication, where you started, I should say it this way. It doesn't matter where you started. It just matters what you care about and what you're doing right now. So with those networks, we've had them, I want to say, for about 3 or 4 years now, and each one has started at different degrees. But we're starting to see alumni who graduated 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago never had a connection to the university before, except, they'll get together, watch a game with some of their classmates. But now they're coming back and going, oh, this is of interest to me. This is of value to me. The speakers that we bring together, or just the opportunity to network with other Trojans in that field, has been very valuable to them. Very similarly, we're also looking at that lens, not just with professions, but also what are some topics or programs that are, or shared interests is how we talk about them, that are of interest. And that includes our age-based program. So let's say you're under the age of 35 and you need career advice. Well, the career advice we give an alum who's under the age of 35 versus the career advice we would give to an alum who's over the age of 50 is very different. So we also look at where are you in your lifespan and how can we curtail or make our programming specific to those needs has been very important. And now to segue over to the Women's Conference, we have been for many, many years looking at alumni identity. So we have our traditional Asian Pacific alumni, Black alumni, Latino alumni association, and our Lambda LGBT alumni associations that have boards, are full-blown alumni associations. They have advisory councils. They do galas. They do scholarship fundraising, and then they also award scholarships from those organizations. Similarly, we have women's groups that fall sort of under this category, as well as our Alumni Veterans Network that falls under this category. And with our women, there has been so much talk and so much emphasis on feminine-based or feminine quality leadership, also needs and interests of women. How can we speak directly to them? And this has been very important for the university and the Alumni Association because just within the last, I want to say 10 to 15 years, what used to be a very small percentage of our student body has now become the small majority of our student body. So our women's student body is just over 51%, and our alumni base is mirroring that now as well. So that's really exciting and also a reason for us to carve out our program and really speak to this audience in a way that hasn't been done in a number of years.
Well, thank you. That demographic, it sounds like, I mean, obviously you're in this business, so, but my sense from all the reading that I do is that demographic is just going to keep trending upwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that you're planning your conference for next March. And as I mentioned earlier, you and I actually met through the Women's Conference. So you had invited me to speak there about 7 years ago. And I'm just wondering if you can tell us why you think that there is such a power in these programs, Danielle, and such a hunger for them as well.
Yes, you know, that is a great question, and I wish I had a short answer for it. I think that as women, there is so much power that gets created. And again, I'm a creative person, so I'm all about this. When we're all in a room together. And Gloria, if I could, and you would have to correct me on this quote, but one of the first sentences that you ever shared with us in this setting at the Women's Conference was that 21st century women are one of the most powerful forces on the planet, and I'm paraphrasing, so you'll have to correct me if I didn't get that quite right, but those words and that sentiment really stuck with me because as we are looking at movements, as we're looking at the shift that's happening, you know, definitely within our country, within politics, within leadership, within business, people are paying attention to what is that powerful source. Are we sourcing it correctly? Are we channeling it to our fullest potential and to our fullest benefit? And then are we paying attention to it in a way that allows us all to become better? Again, I think it just goes to being the human race. Are we maximizing our fullest potential? And I think the answers, and people believe, not just me, the answer is within, you know, that feminine quality, force, all of that. So I personally can't possibly put that, I think, into words, but just my own feeling is there is something there that we all need to pay attention to.
Absolutely, and I think you actually did a beautiful job of summing that up. I mean, we could probably spend the whole program just talking about that one question, Danielle, so thank you for your summary. You know, I was in Nigeria last fall, and I had a wonderful opportunity to spend about maybe a half a day with a gal who has organized an international women's conference, and she was on the cusp of celebrating her 20th year.
Wow.
And one of the things that she talked about, I mean, she was kind of, we talked about it. She was also brainstorming about, like, what would be the best theme or topic or way to kind of just galvanize and pull things together for this 20th anniversary. And, one of the things she talked about was what you pointed out, and that's that feminine quality. Okay, the feminine quality of leadership. And there's something that we have as women that we can't afford to give up. I know over the years that I've been in the business sector, in particular in education as well, a lot of women, they want to go along to get along, and they want to give up some of the qualities that they have, particularly, so that they fit in with the men. And I'm going like, no. There is such diversity that we can offer when we put ourselves at the table, bringing those feminine qualities, those feminine attributes that will be missing if we don't bring them to the table. And so, Danielle, I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about how do you come up with your amazing themes for the various conferences. I mean, to me, they kind of build over the arc of the 10 years that you've had your signature impress on them. And so I'm just wondering if you could talk with us a little bit about, so how do you do that?
Thank you. That is a question that, again, I could speak endlessly about it. But I will say that, and this might be a little too spiritual for some people, so forgive me if you are a person who is in your head. I'm going to go into my heart for a second.
Oh, go there, please.
So this conference is very near and dear to my heart in a way that, for me, if I did not get paid to do it, to produce it year over year, I would still do it. This is what I call a passion project. And so I never approach it. To this point, I have not approached it as just something else on my to-do list. So when I am preparing for it, when I am thinking about what are we going to talk about at the conference, what's the conversation at the conference this year, I'm doing that from listening, from having conversations with people that I trust, like you, Gloria. We've done that a number of years. And then also just paying attention to what women that I work with, I admire, women that I myself don't understand, but I want to know more about. And when I tune into all of those things, then the conference reveals itself to me. So I know I said I'm creative, but this is not something that I feel that I can really take credit for creating. I think it's something that just happens when I allow it to flow in the way that it is going to flow. So I always say I just get out of the way and let the good work happen. And I think, other creative souls would actually describe their process very similar, songwriters or poetry. I think this is something that can be described in a similar way. It happens, and it's just my job to be in tune and to listen for, and then to bring all those wonderful things together.
Yes, I totally get what you're saying. I totally get it. And, yeah, thank you. And you have to be open and have that sense that you talked about earlier, Danielle, that sense of curiosity and discovery and being an open vessel so that the ideas can flow in and come through you.
Absolutely. It's funny. I will have conversations with anyone because I never know where the inspiration is going to come from. In fact, I was having a conversation with a fundraiser of all people, right? We typically don't see them as being inspirational, but I was inspired by something a fundraiser said in a conversation that we were just kind of spinning ideas around, or she actually called me and said, hey, I want to share a few things with you. Do you have time? And I said, absolutely, I will make time. And she was talking, and I was listening, and I let me be honest, sometimes I have to tell myself to put aside my judgment, right? So when you're listening is a very, it has to be active. And sometimes what we end up doing is waiting for our turn to respond, right? Waiting for, now you're going to say something, I'm going to say something. So I have to sometimes tell myself to shut off and listen and just, to your point, be open and receive the information without judging. That is a very tough thing to do. But as long as we practice it, it's something that we can get better at. And it's even something, going back to just working with my staff, it's something that I've had to even do with my staff, people that I'm supervising. I have to receive their information, take in their information, and reserve judgment. Put it all to the side and listen to what they're really saying. And, again, there are days when I am worse at it than I should be and better at it than I'm surprised by. So in this particular case, going back to the women's conference, it is important to be inquisitive, to be open, and to receive the information until we're ready to pull it all together and then come out with a plan.
Yes, I can. I don't know what your office looks like, but I imagine it as a studio, kind of like a little artist's atelier where you have these ideas just kind of flowing and going through you all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, I wish it was like that. Now you're giving me inspiration. I think I may actually move some things around so I can create that. That sounds cool.
Okay. Well, I heard you talk about the conference, and you use these words, passion project, and I know you just spoke to that, Danielle, but is there anything more that you want to say about that in terms of why this is your passion project?
Absolutely. Again, in full disclosure, I was raised by a single mom who was also a creative soul who worked so hard. Sometimes for not a whole lot. And that really affected me as a young person watching that. And I always wanted things to not be so hard for my mother. And so when I work on the women's conference, I'm usually thinking about what are those things that are going to make life not so hard for the women who are out here just trying to make a way, be it, and not everyone's life is hard. I get that. So it's not always about the struggle, but sometimes it is just about bringing women together so they can say, oh, are you also going through that? Well, I am going through that. Sometimes it's just an aha moment. Sometimes this is just a feel-good moment. And there are women who come, and it's a great day to dress up and see their friends, and life is great for them, and great. I'm glad they come, and I'm glad they have a good time. There are other women who are coming to this conference and looking for tools to land their next job, tools to balance their financial matters and to manage and lead their financial matters so they can have better lives, easier lives, whatever is of interest to them. So I think, again, to answer your question, Gloria, this is such a passion project for me because as women, we should be empowering one another, and we should be helping each other to find answers. Sometimes it's just, where do I go for this? There are women who are trying to answer questions, and I hope that at this conference those questions can be answered. I don't know if I answered your question. Speaking of answering questions, did I answer your question?
That's a great answer. As you were talking, I was just sitting here thinking, I'm a USC alum too, and I remember, I got 2 degrees there, Danielle, and I remember that USC attracts people from all walks of life. There's some people who are very well off in terms of financial means, and there's some people who are just struggling, and they're just barely making it. There are a lot of first-generation students there, and I was just sitting here smiling just because your motivation for what you do and having your mom as the inspiration, I think, reaches so many women across that spectrum of life circumstances, and it touches their hearts. It touches them where they need to be. I think you meet people where they are. And I was just sitting here just glowing because I'm so glad that you're in this very influential position at USC and can impact the lives of so many, I'm going to say women in particular for this conference, but also just alums in general, men and women across the board. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know we're getting close to the hour, and I know you're a very busy woman.
Yes.
So I just want to be respectful of your time. Danielle, is there anything that you want to tell us about your 10th annual conference, your vision for it, or are there other things that you wish we would have talked about that you haven't gotten a chance to address yet?
Thank you, Gloria. The opportunity to talk with you again today has just been so surreal for me because I still am looking up to so many people that I admire. So as I shared with you, I can't imagine anyone who would say, hey, Danielle, we want to hear from you. So I thank you for this opportunity. But as we wrap up, I think the biggest thing for the 10th annual USC Women's Conference that I just would want to share is that it is happening over 3 days. We are remixing our format. So if anyone is familiar with the conference in the past, it's always been usually one day that starts in the morning with a huge program with everyone together in our main auditorium. We then go into breakout sessions. Then we have a lunch all together under a big, pretty tent. And then we come back for a closing session with a keynote or a panel, and then networking over cocktails in the afternoon. And that formula has worked very, very well for us. We continue to receive a lot of great feedback on that program. With the 10th annual, I feel that we have this wonderful and unique opportunity that we want to capitalize on. And so we're looking at creating an experience that, as I shared, would go across the 3 days, starting with a Thursday night VIP networking session. That would include all of our speakers from the conference who are able to join us, and then other high-profile alumni women, USC women, parents, and some students. The Friday would look a lot like our conference of today. And then on Saturday, that's the opportunity that I'm very, very excited about. Saturday, we believe, will draw out, hopefully, audiences that we haven't really been able to capture as deeply as we've wanted. So that includes younger professional women who probably don't have the license to take off from work the way that some of our more established women do. So that's a population that we want to see grow. Also, we have, over the years, received a lot of inquiries from women and some fathers who have wanted to bring their school-age daughters to the conference. And the programming, and with it being, on a school day, we just could not in good conscience say, yes, bring your 10-year-old or 12-year-old or 17-year-old for that fact. And so now we're looking at doing some specific programming so that mothers can bring their daughters, and if fathers want to bring their daughters as well or send their daughters, they can, because we'll have some programming that will speak to that age demographic. And so we're really, really excited about that. And then finally, the last piece of the Saturday that is new for us, we have received over the years many inquiries from alumni and alumni, women in particular, who have businesses that have told us, hey, I can't be one of your sponsors at, one of the sponsorship levels, but I would love to just have a table or an exhibit at the conference. And so from that feedback, we are creating an expo this year where Trojan-owned businesses, particularly women-owned businesses, will be able to participate. If you're an author and you want to sell and sign your book, if you're a small business owner and you have a service to offer, you'll be able to display your company. And we're hoping that both students who fall in that category, because we do have some very entrepreneurial students here at USC now, you'll be able to participate, as well as our parents, and as I already shared, our alumni. So we're looking at really getting new audience members who haven't been able to participate in the past and be a part of this big celebration.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you're remixing the format. I love your language for that. And it sounds like that Saturday format is really going to help you tap into a whole new demographic and possibly even new programming opportunities, it sounds like.
Absolutely, yes. We're really, really thrilled about it. So, and more information will be coming out by December, definitely by January. And to your point, yes, Gloria, we want people who have not been able to participate before to come out and have a reason to come out. Or if they participated in the early years and haven't been back, we want to see them back.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. Is it okay to share your personal contact information? How would you like for people to know more about the conference, number one? And I see that there's a conference address here on my notes, but is there also a way that you maybe could welcome people to be in touch with you personally as well?
Yes, absolutely. If anyone has any questions about the conference, they can definitely go to our website, womensconference.usc.edu. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, which is at USC Women's Conference. And then just for me personally, if anyone ever has any questions or if there are any Trojans listening, hey, fight on, you can always contact me here at the Alumni Association. My email is harvey.d@usc.edu. And then also, I don't do a lot on Twitter. I do more on Instagram, but both of my handles are at Danny Eliza Harvey, which is a combination of my first name, middle name, and last name.
Hey, great. Well, thank you again so much, Danielle, for all that you're doing for University of Southern California. Fight on, yes, and all that you have shared with our listeners today. We have listeners all over the planet, and I know that you're going to add a lot of value to them and inspire them, so thank you again for being my guest. And sadly, I have to say goodbye, but I would love to have you back another time.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it, and thank you so, so much, Gloria, for the opportunity. Fight on to all my Trojans, and love you so much. I can't tell you enough. Okay.
Thank you. You have a good rest of your day.
What a fabulous conversation. Thanks again to Danielle Harvey Stinson for being my guest. If you'd like to learn more about Danielle's work, or, as she mentioned during today's conversation, if you want to contact her directly about programming, services, or anything else that she offers through USC, you can reach out to her via this email address. And that's Harvey, D, Harvey, D as in Danielle, at usc.edu. Or you can reach out to Danielle on Instagram or Twitter. Her Twitter handle is at DanielIzaharvey. Okay, now, love it. If you missed any part of this week's episode, you can listen to the podcast right here on Talk Network Radio. You can also catch us on iTunes or SoundCloud or Android, Alexa, Spreaker.com. We're in so many places. Hallelujah. Yeah, thank you for listening, because when you listen, we just get bigger and bigger and we share the wealth more and more. So thank you for telling others about this podcast and for sharing the wealth. Okay, that's how we do it. Now, I know that when Danielle mentioned her mom as one of the people who influenced her during our conversation, who influenced her as a leader, she got me to thinking about some of the folks who influenced me. So I want to ask you this. Who are some of the leaders in your life? Who poured into you when you were young? And who's pouring into you now as an adult? Who influenced you? Who inspired you? Now, this is my zone, as you know, inspiration. Such an important quality in a leader, right? And we all want our leaders to be inspiring. We're like moths that are drawn to a flame. We're naturally drawn to people who inspire us. But before leaders, or anyone else for that matter, can inspire others, they must first be inspired. Now, many of you know, you've heard me talk about this before, that inspire comes from this beautiful Latin word, inspirare. I just love saying that. Inspirare, which means to breathe into or upon. And to become inspired, we must be infused with life from a force outside of ourselves. And for me, I'm a person of faith, so that means being infused with life, being breathed into by God. Now, how does this happen? Well, that's another show, right? Maybe sometime I'll do a show just on inspiration. But for now, let me just say that when we are infused with that inspirare, with inspiration, something shifts in us. Something changes. Some say that magic happens. I say the impact might be magical, but there is nothing magical about it. It really is about being an open channel, a conduit for God, for the divine to work through us and to use us as his vessel. Picasso speaks about this, Beethoven, Michelangelo, and many other artists speak about this very same thing. Several years ago, I was on a trip to Tuscany, which, by the way, my guest, Danielle, had a strong hand in making that trip happen. As a part of that very special trip to Tuscany, this was for USC's women alumni and their friends. Anyway, on that trip, I had the great fortune to once again witness Michelangelo's artistry, right? I remember standing at the base of his magnificent sculpture of David. I was absolutely transfixed, and I was transported into another realm. Now, you have to realize that this sculpture of David is of David as a young man. Most of you probably seen a picture of it, or maybe you've been to Tuscany too. But this youth, this young man who was about to duke it out with the mighty giant Goliath, this amazing statue is actually 14 and a half feet tall. That's taller than a house, right? Okay? It's about the height of a 2-story building. And that doesn't even include the base, which is about 3 feet high, right? So we're really talking about a statue that's about 2.5 stories tall. So I'm standing there at the foot of this absolutely magnificent sculpture of David, and I'm in heaven, of course. Forget about the bees' nests of dozens of other people buzzing around me. There are tons of folks who are there just like me to admire this absolutely astounding work of art. They're shooting videos, posing for selfies. You get the picture, right? Pardon the pun. But right in the midst of this sea of humanity, I had this wonderful epiphany, this wonderful aha. I realized that the task of the artist and the task of the leader is actually one and the same, right? And just what is this task? Well, I thought you'd never ask. The task is to release our resistance, to simply surrender, to surrender what wants to be born in us and to be born through us, to simply surrender to what wants to be born in and through our marriages, our relationships with our kids, our friendships, right?
our communities, in and through our teams and our organizations and communities. Now, Danielle spoke about her creativity in her own work. Wow, creativity, such a powerful, powerful force. If we let it, if we surrender to it, creativity can actually be a powerful and amazing ally. If we just open our hearts and minds, creativity can be an ally, a resource, a guide to support us in how we live, and also in how we lead, at home, at work, and in any area of our lives, every single day, 365, 24/7. Why? Because how you live is how you lead. In fact, how we live is really how we show up in every aspect of our lives, right? Can I get an amen? Amen. Now, if you happen to miss any part of this week's episode or last week's, you can listen to a podcast at your convenience. You can even listen on the go. Check us out at www.talknetworkradio.com/hosts/legacy living. That's talknetworkradio.com/hosts/legacy living. You can also find us on iTunes, Audible, Alexa, SoundCloud, iHeart, TuneIn, Spreaker.com, Talk Network Radio, and so many other places. You can also find me on the TEDx site and listen to one of my TED Talks. Just type in my name to find me there. Now, before I close today, I want to thank each of you for tuning in, for allowing me to share a bit about my journey with what legacy living is all about. Not just living and learning, but living and learning and serving so that you make a difference in your own life and in the lives of others. It's about being on purpose every single day, 365, 24/7. Legacy living is a powerful way to make your life count. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me for today's episode. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, and this has been Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. Please join me again for another episode of Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. Don't just count the days in your life. Make the days in your life count. That's what legacy living is all about. Hey, have a fantastic day, and remember, make the days in your life count. God bless you. That's our show today. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess. I hope you'll join me again next time. Until then, don't just count the days in your life. Make the days in your life count. That's what legacy living is all about. Here's to you. Have a fantastic day, and be sure to make it a yes kind of day. Remember to celebrate the music of your life. Make the days in your life count.